Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on something you see every single day, but probably never think twice about: paint. And we're going to uncover the unseen architect that makes it all work.
I mean, have you ever stopped to wonder what gives paint its magic? Why does it go on the wall so smoothly without dripping everywhere? Or how does the color not just sink to the bottom of the can after sitting for a few months?
Well, the answer is surprisingly earthy. It's not some crazy, complex synthetic chemical. Nope, it's a natural clay called 𝗿𝗏𝗽𝗃𝗍. And this microscopic material is the real unsung hero inside just about every can of modern paint. So, here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll look at its basic structure. Then see how it builds this incredible 3D network in water. We'll unpack its magical property called thixotropy. Then, we'll see how it protects the pigments, strengthens the final paint coat, and wrap up with why it's basically the perfect all-in-one additive.
All right, first up, let's get to know our main character on a microscopic level, the 𝗿𝗏𝗽𝗃 nanorod.
So, what makes this clay so special? It really comes down to its shape and its surface. Each particle is this tiny needle-like rod, and it has what's called a high aspect ratio, meaning it's way longer than it is wide. This is perfect for getting them to tangle together. They also have a huge surface area. We're talking over 200 square meters in a single gram. And that surface is covered in these things called hydroxyl groups, which absolutely love water. And this attraction to water, well, that's the key to everything else.
Okay, so we've got these tiny rods. Now, let's see how they go from just a dry powder into this powerful invisible structure inside the paint can.
When you mix 𝗿𝗏𝗽𝗃 into a water-based paint, this whole three-step dance kicks off. First, the mixing force breaks all the dry clumps apart, freeing up the individual nanorods. Then, because of those water-loving surfaces we just talked about, water molecules rush in and form this neat, stable little layer around each and every rod. And finally, these perfectly hydrated rods spread out evenly, creating a stable system. This is the foundation of the whole structure.
And this network? This is what gives 𝗿𝗏𝗽𝗃 its core superpower. It's a property with a fantastic name: thixotropy. It sounds complicated, I know, but the idea behind it is actually super simple and, frankly, brilliant.
So what is thixotropy? Simply put, it's the property of being thick and gel-like when you leave it alone, but becoming thin and runny the second you apply some force, like stirring it or, brushing it on a wall. It's exactly why ketchup flows when you shake the bottle, and for paint it's absolutely essential. See, this network really has two different states. When it's at rest, just sitting in the can, the nanorods are all randomly tangled up, connected by weak bonds to form this microscopic house of cards. This makes the paint thick with a high viscosity, which keeps everything suspended. But the moment you dip your brush in and start painting, that force breaks all those weak bonds. The rods instantly line up in the direction of your stroke, the viscosity plummets, and the paint just flows beautifully.
But here's the other half of the magic trick. The second you lift your brush off the wall, the natural, random jiggling of molecules, that's called Brownian motion, causes all those rods to immediately tangle right back up into that house of cards structure. The viscosity shoots right back up, and the paint grabs onto the wall, which means no drips, no runs. It's this perfectly reversible, self-healing network. Pretty cool, right?
Now, this incredible network does way more than just control how the paint flows. It also acts as a guardian for the most important part of the paint, the pigments, the stuff that actually gives it color.
The first line of defense here is something called yield stress. The best way to think about it is like a force field. That 3D network of clay rods has a certain amount of strength. For a heavy pigment particle to sink, gravity has to pull it down with enough force to break through that network. Well, the 𝗿𝗏𝗽𝗃 network's yield stress is stronger than the force of gravity on the pigments, so they're effectively just frozen in place, perfectly suspended. But it doesn't stop there. 𝗿𝗏𝗽𝗃 has two more clever tricks up its sleeve. First, it physically sticks to the pigment particles, giving them a stronger negative charge, which makes them naturally push away from each other. Second, the little rods sticking out from the pigment surface act like tiny stiff bristles, physically blocking other particles from getting too close. It's this 1-2 punch of an electrical force field and a physical barrier, what scientists call steric hindrance, and it works like a charm.
Okay, so 𝗿𝗏𝗽𝗃 is an absolute master of wet paint. But what happens after the paint dries? Well, believe it or not, its job still isn't over. It plays a huge role in strengthening the final dried film.
You see, as water evaporates, paint naturally shrinks. That creates stress and can lead to cracks. But because the 𝗿𝗏𝗽𝗃 rods are stable fillers, they act like tiny placeholders, reducing that shrinkage. More importantly, that interlocked network of nanorods acts just like microscopic rebar in concrete. It distributes stress evenly across the whole film, stopping tiny cracks before they can even start. And for one last bonus, those amazing hydroxyl groups on the surface form bonds with things like wood or concrete, acting like little chemical anchors that give the paint a much stronger grip.
So when you put this all together, it becomes pretty clear that this isn't just an additive, it's like a whole team of specialists rolled into one incredible natural material.
I mean, just think about it for a second. 𝗏𝗏𝗽𝗏 does it all. It's the thixotropic agent that stops drips, it's the anti-settling agent that keeps paint fresh for years, it's the pigment spacer that ensures a vibrant, even color, it's the film reinforcer that prevents cracks, and it's the adhesion promoter that makes the paint stick. It really is a super material.
And all of this leaves you with a really fascinating question, doesn't it? If a simple natural clay can be the high-tech architect behind something as common as paint, what other natural wonders are hiding in plain sight, quietly perfecting the products we use every single day?